In this video, we'll be taking a look at all today's NBA matchups, and I'll break them all down with free winning picks so you can bet smarter and win bigger. But first, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you get our picks the second they drop, because when the lines move, the early birds cash in. And if you want the full winning sport picks experience, head over to wspicks.com and check out our VIP packages, or grab a free consultation with one of our professional sports consultants for the sharpest edge you'll find anywhere. That's where the real plays live. We are your bookmaker's worst nightmare. These are the games we're hammering, the ones the books can't afford you to bet. This is Winning Sport Picks. The free picks are about to drop, and they're coming in hot. We start with Orlando taking on Detroit, with Orlando catching +3 and Detroit laying 3. And the market here is telling you a lot about perception versus reality. Orlando has been a steady road dog team because they slow games down, grind possessions, and force opponents into long half-court sequences. Detroit, meanwhile, gets inflated at home because they occasionally show flashes of pace that trick the public into thinking they're more explosive than they actually are. When you match these profiles, you typically get a game that tightens in the fourth quarter, which is why taking Orlando plus the 3 makes sense, and the total leaning toward the under feels right because both teams trend to long, inefficient stretches. So for this matchup, I'm rolling with Orlando +3 and under 232.5. Next, we look at Cleveland versus Atlanta, with Cleveland laying 5 and Atlanta catching 5. And this is one of those games where the number looks big for a reason. Cleveland drags teams into slow physical basketball, which creates long gaps where the opponent struggles to maintain rhythm. Atlanta, on the other hand, tends to get punished by teams that force them off their pace, and when their tempo gets disrupted, they're vulnerable to extended scoring droughts. This usually benefits the favorite that dictates the style, and Cleveland is exactly that team. With the total sitting at 239, that's a high number for a matchup that normally compresses into grind-heavy possessions down the stretch, making the under a natural companion. I'm taking Cleveland -5 and under 239. Then it's Washington stepping in against Indiana, with Washington catching 6 and Indy laying 6, and this spread reflects how volatile the Pacers can be as home favorites. Washington often shows better fight as a road dog because they play looser, take more risks, and stretch games out with streaky shooting. Indiana at home tends to get priced too heavy, especially in spots where their pace can backfire by giving opponents extra possessions. That's why grabbing Washington +6 makes sense, especially with a total at 239.5, which is high but consistent with how both teams play. The only angle that consistently cashes in these kinds of matchups is pace-inflated scoring, so the over 239.5 is the better lean. I'm taking Washington +6 and over 239.5. Now it's Milwaukee taking on New York, with Milwaukee catching 8 and a New York laying 7.5, and this is a market shaped entirely by home court inflation. New York plays a controlled, pressure-heavy style at home that squeezes visiting offenses, but Milwaukee thrives as a road dog in slower defensive environments because it forces games into half-court trading rather than track meets. When you combine that with a total of 233.5, you get a game where every possession matters and where the underdog keeps it close most of the way. New York can win, but covering a 7.5 number requires extended offensive efficiency they don't always sustain. I'm grabbing Milwaukee +8 and leaning under 233.5. Next, we slide into Chicago against Charlotte, with Chicago laying 2 and Charlotte catching 2, and this is one of those small spread games where psychology matters more than stats. Chicago struggles when forced into slower, methodical games, and Charlotte thrives when they can dictate chaos and keep defenses off balance. Because the number is so small, you're essentially picking who wins outright, and these are the exact spots where Charlotte's home court energy gives them an edge. With a total at 247.5, extremely high for these offensive profiles, the market is begging for an over, but history shows these inflated lines tend to drift under when the game tightens. I'm taking Charlotte +2 and under 247.5. Finally, Philadelphia clashes with Brooklyn, with Philly laying 7 and Brooklyn catching 7, and this line tells you everything about form versus matchup. Philadelphia usually thrives in structured, defensive first battles, but Brooklyn's pace and shot volume style forces opponents into uncomfortable rhythms. Brooklyn as a home dog tends to outperform expectations because they play with urgency and extend possessions. With the total at 222.5, the number is low relative to typical Brooklyn games, meaning the market anticipates defensive pacing. However, these two historically play faster in this building, which supports the over. I'm taking Brooklyn +7 and over 222.5. Now listen to me, those are the free picks, but the one game I am unloading on tonight, the game that's going to crush your bookie's soul, that's the VIP play of the day at WSPicks.com. This is the nuke, the hammer, the max bet, the one play I've circled, the game that will bury your bookmaker 6 feet under. When it hits, and it will, your bookie is going to need a doctor, a lawyer, and maybe even a priest. If you want to ride with me on the biggest bet of the day, get to WSPicks.com right now. For the recap, I'm on Orlando +3 and under 232.5, Cleveland -5 and under 239, Washington +6 and over 239.5, Milwaukee +8 and under 233.5, Charlotte +2 and under 247.5, and Brooklyn +7 and over 222.5. This is Winning Sport Picks, where we don't just bet, we bury bookmakers. Smash that subscribe button, drop your favorite plays in the comments, and hammer that like button like you're hammering your bookie into the dirt. We're cashing, we're dominating, and tonight we're dancing on the grave of your bookmaker. Let's go!